So joining us now is our 9 News legal analyst, Whitney Traylor. Whitney, the DA chose not to pursue criminal charges against the officer involved here. Let's start there. Were you surprised by that?
No, I wasn't surprised, and I'll actually give DA Brockler some credit because he went through a very detailed analysis in terms of why he chose not to. As speaking to the family, I can understand why there's absolute frustration and pain. But they and the Douglas County sheriffs met with a lot of the activists, so they were very active. But you know, the DA must have a good faith basis to believe that an individual committed the crime and that they can actually convict on that crime. And based on the information presented at the press conference, I'm not surprised when he said this officer arrived, knew it was an active shooter situation, arrived there, saw somebody with a weapon, told them to drop it and didn't. Now, of course, there's a lot of other facts, which I'm sure we'll get into, that push back on that. Obviously, it was 10 seconds from the time he got out of the car until the 9 shots were fired. It was 3 seconds from the time he said to drop it. 7 of the shots are reported to have went through the back. All of those factors really work against it. But from the DA's perspective, I'm not necessarily surprised.
So talk to us about the different standards in deciding whether to bring criminal charges, and then the standard of proof for a civil case.
Right, and that's really relevant here because here we now have a wrongful death civil suit. And so now the burden of proof is a preponderance of the evidence. So that means just slightly more than not is what the plaintiffs, the family, will have to prove here. Whereas in a criminal case, Brockler, he would have had to prove him beyond a reasonable doubt. So there is a fairly big difference between criminal and civil charges, even though we're talking about the same factual situation. And so here, you know, the question was the police may only use force that is objectively reasonable, and they can only use deadly force when you pose an imminent danger. And that's going to be a very intense factual dispute at trial. Was there an imminent danger? Was the officer or others in danger? And there's strong arguments to push against that.
You mentioned that trial. The family has officially requested a jury trial. Yes. How critical will that jury be in this case, and who could be selected for that?
Right, that's a great question. And the jury trial, you know, I'm a trial lawyer, and the jury are completely important because they ultimately make the decision. The judge decides what evidence gets in and directs the trial, but it's really the jury. And in this case, it's filed in state court. So the jury's going to come from Douglas County. And so that's going to be very relevant because whether we want to believe it or not, race is still an issue in this country. Douglas County is 80% white, less than 2% black. You know, I've been trying cases for 30 years. I've never had a black juror. Now, at the same time, I've only lost 1 trial. So do I believe in the jury system? I do believe in it. But this is going to be relevant because Douglas County, it's getting older, it's high income, it's high home ownership. So I think a lot of people will come in with certain biases. There's going to be people who are already against law enforcement, and then there's going to be people who are completely for law enforcement. Now, the objective of the jury is to not bring those biases in and to just listen to the evidence, and the judge will give those kind of instructions. But here, being in Douglas County, is, in my opinion, is going to be highly relevant.
So we have less than 30 seconds, but important to hear your expertise here. If the family prevails,
yes,
what type of damages are they entitled to? Do you expect there to be a settlement?
You know, a lot of these cases settle. Most civil cases settle, as they should, because it's expensive and it's unknowing. But here, there's a lot of dispute. It's going to be expensive to try. It's going to be complicated. There's going to be a lot of factual disputes, and there's going to be a lot of technical issues. One of those is going to be finance, because this is a wrongful death. So they're going to be looking for the financial, what Jalin Seabron would have made for life, how much he would have been able to contribute to his child. So all of those things will come in, and that's what they're going to be seeking. So not only are the facts that we've just discussed going to be at issue, but the financial piece is going to be, they're going to have financial experts that come in and testify and project out. So it's going to be a complex case.
Okay. And I know Alexandra Lewis, she's not here today, but she's following this case very closely, yes, as you are as well. Whitney Traylor, thank you for your expertise today.